Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first edition of the Digital Europe Digital Skills Summit. My name is Jose Martinez, the Director of Projects at Digital Europe, and today I'm going to be your host. Here we have many familiar faces, and also online we have around 100 online attendees that you will be participating in the event, and feel free to make your comments in the chat. This event is going to be recorded. By being here, you acknowledge and give permission to be recorded and to be part of the picture and videos that we are going to make. If you want to use social networks, please do not forget to use the Digital Skills Summit 24. That is our hashtag for today. And let me explain a little bit the content of the summit today. We are going to have high-level speakers from EU institutions, industry, and academia. And we will explore the key challenges of digital skills and how digital skills are the best way to bridge the gap that we have in Europe, and how skills can contribute to make Europe more competitive and resilient. We are going to have three different panels in which we will see the role of digital skills in defense and security, the digital skills strategy for Europe, and also the importance of standardization and digital skills. Today, we are also celebrating the finalization of our project, ESSA, that is the European Sector Skills Alliance on software services and cloud computing. This is a project that has been led by Digital Europe, and by the way, I started working for Digital Europe as coordinator of this project during the COVID times. Together, we will have the opportunity to really reflect, connect, and drive forward Europe's digital agenda. And now, I am delighted to invite to a stage our Director General, Cecilia, to deliver the opening remarks. Cecilia will highlight the critical importance of digital skills in today's economy. Welcome, Cecilia.
I remember when you joined, Jose, right? It was supposed to be temporary, and today you lead the whole thing, and with great success. So I need these. I'm getting older. If not, I can't see my notes. But listen, there is a saying that, show me who your friends are, and I shouldn't tell you who you are. I always say it's not about who works for you, it's about who works with you. And I really think that this crowd is telling a lot about this. If we have a common target, okay, we might have different, companies or different institutions that we work for. But if we have a common target, let's aim for the stars. Let's believe that we can change something. And today we have some of our national associations. Digital Europe represents around 45,000 companies. And we have 42 national associations, so it's like an EU plus club. So it's EU plus Moldova, Ukraine, Switzerland, Norway, Turkey, and maybe a few others that I forgot, but really like an EU like-minded club. And we have today Belgium, Hungary, Spain, Slovenia, and several other countries represented here. Because our organizations are really our DNA. We work extremely closely with the countries. As I said to Pia a second ago, I was in 2 countries every week for the last 5 months because I've just onboarded a great international leader for Digital Europe called Lasse, and I want him to hit ground running and really meet all the great, from ministers to organizations, and work as one big family as we do in Digital Europe. But we also have companies here. We have Workday, Nokia, SAP, Microsoft, AWS, Fujitsu, Cisco, Banca di Santander, and several other companies. So why, people might say like, why, Banco de Santander? Because Digital Europe actually has 6 big sectors now. We have defense, we have finance, we have huge in health, we have manufacturing, we have green and energy technologies, and I could continue. So we have grown more than, we are 5 times bigger than we were 7 years ago. Okay, enough about us and what is it that we're here for today? Well, when you're in Europe and you say our president, people say like, who? Biden? For me, there is only one president, it's Ursula von der Leyen, and I think we have made the right choice, and I congratulate all of us for choosing an excellent president. And just after the aggression of Russia towards Ukraine, she said, in the fight between democracy and autocracy, digital is no sideshow, it's at the heart. By that, she really placed digital and digital skills not only as a factor of economic stability and prosperity, but also on military and security resilience in society. And well, it's said that data is the gold of the 21st century. Well, if data is the gold, I think the skills is the fuel that makes those innovations happen. And it creates a room for resilience and for innovation that without the skills, we will never be able to catch up. So let me give you a few examples, first on economic stability and on military stability. So if we look at companies that are digital, they have a profit that is 2.5, actually 2.6 times, not percent, times bigger than companies that are not digital. If we look at the survival rate of companies during COVID, it is the double if the companies has adopted digital technologies in their business processes. So what does it mean? It means that it's not like something, in the basement that coding geeks are doing. It's really about having digital skills across the board that makes our economy more resilient. Let me give you another example on how we look at military stability, resilience of society. The future of warfare, and Konstantinos, our excellent director for defense and resilience, will tell you more today. But if we look at resilience, the future of warfare will not be guns and tanks and missiles only, and God forbid that it will be attacks on our critical infrastructure, water, energy, connectivity. Can you imagine not being connected? Can you imagine that there is no light in this room? That you cannot enter the banking sector or your transactions because either things are down. All that I've mentioned now is critical infrastructure. And it's not to scare the out of you, but this is real. And if you look at, for example, NATO's definition of war in Article 5, that is warfare. Cyber attacks on critical and vulnerable infrastructure in society is a sign of aggression. Until now, we have not reacted because it would trigger even further attacks. But we need to mind that this is also about people being able to defend themselves and the society being able to defend themselves. So what does it mean? What is digital resilience? Imagine a drone flying into an energy plant. It goes very close to the window and it drops malware inside of your PC. It spreads to your whole energy environment and through the lines to the household that it supplies. That's what digital resilience is all about. All it takes are major investments in digital skills and digital tools for example, drone jamming. Artificial intelligence. In EU, 6% of venture capital goes to EU companies. We have, and okay, you can challenge me afterwards. Somebody will say we have a little bit of Mistral, we have a little bit of Supercell, but we don't have scalable AI companies in Europe. And it's nobody's fault but our own, because we didn't let companies scale across border with a fast enough speed. We were busy regulating while others were busy innovating. So do we need to give up? No, but we need to think we really need to think hard about this. Who are our friends? that has the best AI, because AI and AI skills is the best cybersecurity defense. So today you are using AI and quantum computing to defend your banking application, your energy application, your water supply, your hospital that is under attack. So, okay, can we catch up on that? The honest truth is probably no. But we have the best countries that has the best companies on AI on our side. And thank you for that, because we really, really need that now. But what we do have in Europe are other competences. We are super, super good at bringing down CO2 through AI, through digital twins, Siemens, Schneider, Nemetschek. We have our own tech giants, both in banking, and banking is very close to security. So banks are developing applications and knowledge on security and cybersecurity that we don't have any other places. We have it on energy security, decentralized energy models. So if one cell goes down, the other one plugs in. We have that in Europe. The companies are here. We had it on the application side and how to do efficient supply chain, SAP. We have it in the medical sector. I mean, Novo Nordisk has just put like billions of euros on quantum computing on basically healthcare, right? To prevent, pandemics, cure rare diseases. We have those big tech giants. We just didn't talk about them for a while. So let's start doing that. And let's recognize that their fuel is basically the skills that we develop. So how is the picture right now? Well, if you look at the eight of the, so can anybody in here mention a critical technology? Just shoot. Critical technologies? So critical technologies are the technologies that are critical for economic and military stability of the future. Just shoot. Anybody? Quantum? Yes. Other? AI? Semiconductors? Yeah, it's not a good story on that one. But where does Europe, Europe actually, in those 8 that we have analyzed, Europe only leads in 1. And you haven't mentioned it yet. And we actually have 2 big tech giants there. Voila, connectivity. Yeah, remember, without connectivity, what happened in the first 2 days of the war, I got a call from the Ukrainian government that said, we need help. We don't know what's going on in Bucha. They have cut all the cable. They have smashed our radio connections. We don't have 5G connection. We don't have 4G connection. Security depends on your ability to communicate. We lead on that. Unfortunately, we're the continent with the lowest penetration of 5G. So they make their money elsewhere, which is a big mistake in my view. Big, big, big mistake. So how can we do scalable skills within this area? How can we do scalable investment and incentive structures across Europe on connectivity, on energy tech? We know how to lead that. Let's do what we are good at, not being like sorry for what we are not good at. And let's just be happy that we have countries, companies from other countries that are our friends that can actually cover for our shortcomings. Digital skills. 20% of digital skills are held with women, or a little bit less. Many of the digital skills that are with women are not like the hardcore skills. There's no doubt that bringing up the general level of skills brings up the society. If you look at Spain, excellent example, and thank you, Nadia Calvino, who went back and she became the finance minister during COVID, and she took all the RF funds and she put it into skills and SMEs, right? Brilliantly. Why? She went from the 17th place in the, it's not called Dix anymore, but whatever it's called now, to the 6th place in 2 years. In 2 years, they brought her, and we see Spain as one of the upcoming, stars, rising stars in digital. It's called Silicon Malaga right now. I mean, I'm not kidding. People are really going there, living there, because there is this community of coders and that is really starting to live there, because they can live anywhere in the world. Why not Malaga? There's a lot of other guys and good education and a lot of digital skills. So that's one of the things we need to do. I spoke to Pia before, and I mentioned an example. I used to be the president of the Danish Association. I don't know how I ended up there, because I was actually an entrepreneur and growing businesses, and somebody thought I would be an excellent president. But I did it. I said yes. And as a business person, I went in and said, how do we spend our resources? And they said, we spend 50% of our resources on lobbying for digital skills. I said, how are we doing? And they started telling me that for the last 10 years, they had 0 results. I said, okay, let's abolish it. I mean, let's cancel it. Let's move the resources to something else, because we're not good at this. And don't do something that you're not good at, right? And everybody said, no, you can't do this. It's the most important thing for companies. I said, well, okay, why are we not solving the problem then? I mean, so we spend all the resources and we don't make an impact. So I pushed them a bit. And in the end, I said, go back, come back to me and tell me how you're going to solve, how you're going to make an impact. And the companies came back and they said, okay, we're going to put quite a large amount into a small fund. And we want to hook up with an organization called Coding Pirates, which is an NGO of teachers and people with coding skills that basically goes out to school and teaches kids after school how to code and develop things. And I said, brilliantly, can we scale them? Can we give them the money? And then we went to the unions, and all the unions said, no, digital skills is just another thing. It's not really a curricula, It's I was like, this is too slow for me. It's gonna take 10 years, right? So we went to the schools, and all the teachers, I made a big invitation for all teachers to come at Børsen in Denmark, which is it's gone now, but it was kind of the gathering point for industry. And it was we had 400 teachers coming, and everybody was interested. I said okay, your unions are not interested. I'll get them around, in a time. And we said to them, go back to your schools, talk about how you can give 2 years. We're ready to fund 2 years of coding skills from what we call 6th to 8th grade. So it's secondary school, end of secondary school. And companies came out with the use cases, and they loved it. Everybody loved it. And, we don't know anything about didactics, so we did a partnership between the real teacher and the coding teacher and the company, cases that knows the processes. And it worked brilliantly. I want to send you, we have a video, right, from online. Maybe we can send it around afterwards. Can we do something on you like that? Can we do a public-private partnership, like a fund for, teaching skills in secondary schools? Can we just go to the schools and give it to them, and get them going so they can make it mandatory? I mean, honestly, coding is the only universal language in the world. So fine that we learn French and English, but this is universal. It's a skill that you need, no matter whether you are a nurse or whether you are a carpenter or whether you are working in pharma or whether you're working in energy. So it's just an idea, just to spark an idea. And I'm happy to push the industry if the commission, and we can push the countries together. We have all the national association here to basically contribute and make it mandatory. Because I believe changing in a process, we have done a huge amount of things for the last 7 years in skills, and we will continue to do so. But every time we start something, it ends. So it's a project. We need to also go in and tweak the structures so there is something lasting. So I can mention another example, and I'm speaking too long. I'm destroying your agenda, I know. Another example, we re-educated 900 women from secretaries, administrative functions, to ICT specialists in something called Women for IT. I think it was 4 years, and then it ended. It was Norwegian money. It was, I don't know if we have anybody from Norway here today, but it was a Norwegian fund that gives, and then it ended. And that's so sad, because we built a network of, educators around the other countries, and we actually managed to get 900 women working in, when you have a service job, the value add to society of a normal service job and an ICT service job is 40% higher. So not only do these women enter, a higher paid job, more tax for public sector, but it really gives an accelerator to the economy that we don't normally have. So let's make real impact. Last idea for today. I really think there is a place. I mean, so EU doesn't have a mandate on many of the things that really needs to be done. But as I said in the start, this is not about who works for you or what your mandate is. This is about who works with you. And I think the Commission has a crucial role as a facilitator of decisions that apparently until now has not been made. We cannot keep not twisting the structures. And one of the things that is for sure, digital security and resilience is not national. You could argue it's not even European, but at least it's a start that we are looking at scalability of resilience. Cyber attack is not going to limit itself to country by country entry. It will spread. In 2 days, the CrowdStrike hit 8.5 million devices all over in all countries. So why am I saying this? I talked about the critical technologies. If you haven't read it, please read our paper called The Critical Tech Gap. It shows that we lead in one, right? But it also teaches you what are these technologies that will define our future, for better and worse. So on critical technologies and on some of the dual-use technology that it takes to protect, for example, critical infrastructure, these skills we cannot and we should not define nation by nation, because if we're under attack, these people need to go into one pool and they need to help to defend us. And the companies that are leading on these technologies, they need to scale across Europe, because no company in digital will ever survive in one country. No. I mean, the acceleration of scale with digital has like quadrupled year over year. We've never seen this before. Companies are not national, period. So if we look at that, these skills around critical technology, protection of critical infrastructure, they need to be certifications done on EU level. And they cannot be spread all over. We need to find, like, I'm saying 5, it might be 8, and it might be 2. But 5 big universities in Europe that can basically offer critical skills certifications to people and to companies, employees, and to, for that matter, institutions. And again, for the teachers, we discussed before, for the teachers, the same for them. Let's like really put emphasis on getting the right skills in a few universities that can also teach the teachers how to become more digital. Give them an EU certification on didactics and digital technologies. So a lot of crazy ideas from a visionary lady, but I think we can do it, and I don't think we have a choice, honestly. Digital skills is not only for like, it's nice to have, it's about economic and military stability of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. It has been very inspiring, your examples on critical technologies, on how to have more experts in coding. Now at Digital Europe, we have many different projects in which we, for example, are trying to explain how to use artificial intelligence for better coding, and how to use artificial intelligence for better coding, making it more ethical, more inclusive, and more gender balanced, as an example. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Pia Ahrenkilde Hansson, Director General for DG Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission. Pia will share insights on how Europe can remain competitive and resilient by investing in education and digital skills. Please join me in calling Pia to the stage.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and dear Cecilia, thank you for your welcome and inspiring speech. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you here today, and let me thank Digital Europe for organizing this summit and for inviting me to share my 2 cents, if you like, on the topic of digital educations and skills. It's not a cliche. Today, Europe stands at a crossroads, and we can either act now to enhance our competitiveness and societal, and that includes digital, resilience. We can risk falling further behind. And I think we all know which one we choose, and the European Commission is ready to act on our choice. President von der Leyen's decision to nominate 2 executive vice presidents responsible for people, skills, and preparedness, bear with us because the titles may still change, there's a vote today, and tech sovereignty, security, and democracy is an important step in reflecting the key role of skills and technology leadership for competitiveness. And looking ahead for the next 5 years, we do have a unique opportunity today to reflect on the position of digital education and skills at the center of Europe's efforts to build expertise, but more importantly, to drive innovation. The urgency for the EU's need to act, I think Cecilia made it very clear, act swiftly and as one is crystal clear. And you've all heard, I'm sure, about Mario Draghi's report, where he underlined how over the past decades, our productivity has slipped, and today it sits more than 20% behind that of the US. And the reason for this includes that Europe did miss the opportunity offered by the digital revolution, sparked by the internet boom and the ensuing gains in productivity. And as a result, we risk now being stuck in the so-called middle technology gap. And put more tangibly, today only 4 of the world's top 50 tech companies are European. US big tech companies dominate the development and the rollout of next generation artificial intelligence, cloud and quantum computing, as we also just heard. So this leaves Europe dependent on large global players in an increasingly complex and ever more unstable geopolitical environment, reducing the EU's independence and open strategic autonomy. President von der Leyen's special advisor, Sauli Niinisto, gave us recently the lay of the land concerning the growing number of threats, civil, military, and environmental, that Europe faces. Russia's unjustified full-scale invasion of Ukraine is a vivid example. Another is the devastating floods witnessed in south and eastern Spain and the tragic loss of life that followed. To step up our work, to boost the EU's competitiveness, to accelerate also Europe's green and digital transitions, and enhance our society's resilience, we need a bold and decisive strategy that draws on collective strengths and seizes available opportunities. Mario Draghi ranked Europe's education systems, democratic governance, and unique social model among these strong points. Special Advisor Niinisto echoed this sentiment by calling for a whole-of-society approach to enhance the EU's preparedness, drawing from Europe's full talent pool. So you can hear I'm slowly zooming in on the topic you have asked me to talk about. During the next 5 years, the College of Commissioners will take forward the Commission's work in these areas, building on our existing successes, because we do have many. And fortunately, we're not starting from scratch. Recognizing the importance of digital education and skills in strengthening Europe's competitiveness and societal resilience, already in 2018, the Commission adopted its first digital education action plan. And now, in its second iteration, the updated action plan outlines a long-term vision for high-quality and inclusive digital education, because this is a matter for everyone. This work is now being taken forward into Council recommendations. This is how we operate in education. We don't have legislative competence, but we still do a lot by indeed steering member states forward, working with them indeed on effective and inclusive digital education, and on improving the provision of digital skills. The recommendations call for the EU and member states to work more closely together to identify and also tackle the shared challenges for digital education and skills. And concretely, they give a more coherent EU-level framework, pulling everyone in the same direction for investment in infrastructure, in skills, and in capacity building. And it reflects the key importance of EU-level support that these recommendations also steer, such as the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the key programs for digital education and skills, such as Erasmus Plus and such as Erasmus Plus, which enable Europe to take a more decisive and leading role in the digital technology race. So several funding instruments to give our digital education action plan teeth. That's important to stress. Let me give you a couple of indicative examples of where we stand. According to Eurostat, only 56% of the 16 to 74-year-olds in the EU have at least basic levels of digital skills. So just above half of the population. So it means that the other half of the population isn't equipped to perform essential tasks, daily tasks online, like making an appointment at the town hall or catching up on today's news. We're not talking quantum computing skills here, we're really talking basic skills. And what is worrying is the rate of progress. In 2021, the rate was 54%. So very short, very little progress in a few years. And despite our best efforts and their reputation as digital natives, the state of play for young Europeans doesn't look much brighter. The latest International Computer and Information Literacy Study, published two weeks ago, shows that 43% of 13 to 14-year-olds currently underachieve in computer and information literacy. So Cecilia was right. It's really going too slowly when it comes to advancing digital skills also for our kids. And admittedly, the performance is slightly better for the young ones than for older generations. But the numbers show very clearly we cannot be complacent on this one. So a worrying picture of young people's ability to keep up with fast-moving innovations and to make their contributions to our resilience to pervasive cyber threats like fake news and disinformation. In particular, the ISILS, the study I referred to, shows the deep socio-economic divide as a key driver for the divergence across the population. And if we're not careful, AI can accelerate that inequality between those who can use the digital skills and those who cannot. And we cannot, of course, allow this to happen in Europe. Fortunately, existing data and channels for cooperation give us better understanding of these issues. We need evidence to drive and support our policy making. Under the EU's Digital Decade strategy, we have already put in place ambitious targets to guide us in reversing the trends I have just mentioned. By 2030, we hope and we aim to reduce youth underachievement in computer and information literacy to less than 15%, and we want at least 80% of our people in the EU to possess those crucial basic digital skills. And in the same period, we want to have 20 million skilled ICT specialists and much greater representation of women also in these professions. Today, strikingly, we are only at around half this number, and only 1 in 5 of IT specialists is a woman. So targeted EU investment is needed. We needed to work to close these gaps. Under our Recovery and Resilience Facility, nearly 29 billion euro is being challenged to update digital skills with a focus on students from poor backgrounds. And tied to delivery of national plans, the program is driving reform in member states to help plug these existing pitfalls. And it will take time, and we don't have much time for our work to be felt. There's no silver bullet, but that also makes it very clear that we need to do more to take the work into the fast lane. And recognizing this in the years to come, the Commission will focus its efforts on establishing a union of skills. This is to be guided by an overarching strategy that brings investment, lifelong learning, vocational education and training, and the recognition of skills and qualifications to the center. Specifically, an action plan on basic skills and a STEM education strategic plan will help to reverse the declining performance in reading, writing, maths, and science. This is the PISA study that I'm referring to, that I'm sure you have also heard about. In parallel, a skills portability initiative will help ensure that the skills and the qualifications are recognized by education systems and employers across the EU. And building on the advances of the Digital Education Action Plan under the European Education Area, this big barrier-free area for education, mobility, skills that we are trying to create, we are already performing a midterm review that will help us identify what in our action plan has worked well and what we need to improve to generate greater impact. So let me thank Digital Europe and all our partners who contributed to this exercise, because your insights, all your ideas and suggestions are extremely valuable to ensuring continued relevance and effectiveness of this plan and our wider efforts to support Europe's digital education community. And the way we go about updating it will help make sure that as cyberspace and digital technologies evolve, we move at the same speed, high speed, and avoid slipping further behind. And in the longer term, the reviewed plan will be accompanied by also a roadmap on the future of digital education and training. And these strategic tools, because they are of course tools to facilitate, generate, support action, and also investment on the ground, these will help set the future course for our work to empower Europe's schools and teachers. And we have, I think, something like 200,000 teachers in our networks. So there's a real community there that we are closely engaged with on a daily basis. This is vital to equip Europeans of all ages with the relevant competences that they need to reach their ambitions in the digital age. And these competences are, of course, critical for competitiveness, for our businesses, but they are also critical for our democracies. Take digital literacy. We cannot avoid the growing risk posed to Europeans and our democracy by cyber threats like the deep fakes, like disinformation. Digital literacy, the ability to critically assess and question information, is more important than ever in an era of hybrid and real wars and disinformation campaigns from public and private sectors. So it's skills at all levels, and these skills here that I'm talking about determine a lot of things and how our young people are able to advance towards indeed the more specialized skills that we also need to provide them with. So to support Europe's schools and teachers at the forefront of this struggle, in the last 3 years alone, under Erasmus+, we have invested more than 48 million euro in promoting media literacy and tackling misinformation. But how serious is the threat? Well, consider this. According to a recent Eurobarometer survey, only 1 in 3 young people in the EU fact-check what they find online. Only 1 in 3 question what they find in terms of information online. And that leaves potentially 2/3 of our young people vulnerable to manipulation. So this is also urgent for us to address and take action. And with this in mind, we must do more to protect the youngest members of our societies and their fundamental rights online. Existing EU actions, such as the AI Act, which entered into application in August, as you know, are trailblazers in this regard. While it qualifies some use of artificial intelligence in Europe's classroom as a high-risk case, it also opens up opportunities to experiment, innovate, and modernize education with one of the most powerful technologies ever seen. So it's important to balance risk and reward, challenge and opportunity, if we want Europe to succeed in the global AI race, which will involve also education. And Cecilia, I heard you when you say we were busy regulating when others were innovating. And that's, of course, the trap that we really need to stop falling into here. In parallel, 2 years ago, we created ethical guidelines on the use of AI and data in teaching and learning to support teachers in addressing these delicate issues. So to take this work to the next level, the incoming Commission's Executive Vice President for Tech Sovereignty, Security and Democracy will develop a new European Democracy Shield, which is already in the making, as you know, and this will help to counter harmful cyber and hybrid threats, corroding the democratic and social fabric of our societies. It's all linked, and as we have seen, the situation concerning Europe's declining competitiveness and threatened society resilience is complex, it's fast evolving, and indeed we need to shore up our collective resilience by acting now. But how do we then reverse the current trends and put the EU back on course? The answer lies where it starts, in education and training. And right now, Europe's education and training systems, they don't prepare sufficiently current and future generations with the skills that they need to thrive in today's world. So an even more focused, determined approach is needed with targeted investment, with public-private collaborations, and we need to protect our core values and institutions along the way. This much has been recognized, and resolute action to plot a new course together is in the making. So to conclude, and here before all of you who have such a strong role to play, I'm confident that Europe can do what it takes to turn the tide, but for this to happen, we even more than ever need your support, we need your cooperation, and happy to count on your commitment to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pia, for your inspiring words. We at Digital Europe have been very involved in the interim review of the Digital Education Action Plan. And thank you also for pointing out the lack of basic digital skills in younger generation, and also the need of upskilling and reskilling the present generations. Also, how the European Commission, through flagship initiatives, is going to make a strategic investment in the next political mandate. And now we are going to move to the panels. Panel 1 is enhancing defense and security with digital skills. And it will cover different strategies for bridging skills gaps in the defense sector. Leveraging also the dual use of technologies like artificial intelligence, and foster collaboration between industry and public sector actors. Remember that these panels, we will have different panelists, and at the end of each panel, you will have the opportunity to make questions. So take notes of your question that you will be able to pose at the end of the panel. And let me introduce our moderator, Konstantinos Hadjisavvas, Director of Digital Resilience and Defense at Digital Europe.
make the comment. Do they take it for time? That one.
So can I invite my fellow speakers? Saskia? Ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinguished honor for me to open this summit with the first panel that will focus on digital skills in defense. I think my role will not be so difficult because I have brilliant speakers and they will bring here their insights from different backgrounds and perspectives. So first speaker will be Laura Jimenez, Global Head of Cyber GRC. She will explain what is GRC. And, but it's on cybersecurity from Santander. Second will be Saskia von Uffelen, Digital Manager from Agoria. Luca Dagliaretti, Executive Director from the European Cybersecurity Competence Center and Networks. And Matteo Paonni, Deputy Head of Unit, the Scientific Hub of the European Commission Joint Research Center. Before we start, allow me to briefly set the scene. So what I would like to highlight that this topic is not just relevant, but I think it's urgent. As we are witnessing lessons learned coming from the Ukraine-Russian war and Middle East, they are very clear. The battlefield is evolving. Drones, robotic dogs, computing, counter-computers, and other unmanned systems are not any longer futuristic, they are real. But these technologies, to be operational and bring the potential capacity, they need human beings to operate them. And we will end up, if we don't train these people to have smart technologies, but with people not knowing how to operate. That's why it is important to adopt a digital first mindset and ensure that the military people, armed forces, they will have these necessary skills. I want to highlight also that it is proved from the Ukraine and the Russian war that traditional systems alone cannot win the battle. We need to integrate critical technologies, dual-use technologies, and we need to do it rapidly. Now, at Digital Europe, we have the Defense Working Group and other related groups like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, that we are aiming for ambitious targets. For instance, training 300,000 cybersecurity people, advocating for increasing the budget in EU and NATO of 25%. With this, I would like to open the floor with Laura and ask you the first question. Will be the flow of this panel. I will bombard the panelists with some questions, and then we will open the floor. So, how, Laura, do you think defense invest in developing personnel will be successful? And how do you think best practices, examples from your area can help to upskill or reskill this personnel?
Thank you, Constantinos. Thank you so much for having me here today in this extraordinary event. Thank you for inviting Santander to here. Thank you, Digital Europe, for your support all the time. My name is Laura Jimenez. I'm the Global Head of GRC, Governance, Risk and Compliance in Cybersecurity at Santander. As many of you know, Santander is a financial company that it was founded in 1857, and we operate in 10 core markets through Europe, or North America, and South America. We provide services to 171 million of customers. And our purpose is to help business and to help people to prosper, and to provide the an excellent digital service for our customers. So there is threat landscape, a changing threat landscape, as you mentioned, and we believe only cross-border, cross-sectorial collaboration will be key for fighting the crime. The private sector and the public sector must collaborate together to enhance the skills, to provide the digital skills to everyone. Is the only way to fight the crime, we believe. In Santander, we believe that the continuous training is key, especially in digital skills. We invest in the teams, in the talent, providing capacity trainings, focusing on critical skills and new capabilities to respond to the business digitalization and to the emerging threats. So in this digital transformation, defense is not an exception. I believe the modern warfare is based on technological advancement. So we must have an advanced skilled workforce, the private and the public organization. We must collaborate to work together to face the crime. For instance, governments and law enforcement agencies has access to information, to resources, that they can identify the key skills needed to prevent and to respond to the crime. At the same time, the private sector has access to the latest technologies, the latest innovation. So working together is the only way, we believe, that we will enhance our workforce to the next step. Last thing I want to mention is not a question of sharing information or sharing knowledge. I think it's as well a question of sharing resources. And I will give you just a quick example that we have done in Santander this year. We have been working closely with Europol to train the agencies, the people at Europol on the digital forensic analysis regarding Intel. So that collaboration has been a success. The private sector has trained on digital skills, and this is good for everyone, for the citizens and for our customers, for the private sector as well. So.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think it is important what you mentioned in fostering the public-private sector with defense. And what I also like is that there are technologies on the market, and what we need is to ensure that the defense buyers, the armed forces, they are aware of them. And they don't need to invest in developing something that is already there. But I would like also to hear how Saskia thinks what I have mentioned with the mindset and the cultural shift can change in organizations like armed forces, that they have this hierarchical dominant structure coming from the armed forces. I know we are not easy to be communicated, but I would like to hear what do you think about this.
Thank you, Konstantinos, and I've prepared something, but listening to the previous speakers, I will say something completely different. So, but first, thank you, because everybody is shared in digital skills, and we've heard the numbers before, and we are not improving. So I don't think we need another speaker saying it's urgent. So I try to, like Cecilia said, we need to be bold, we need to make impacts. So if I make some suggestions, don't take it personally, but it's just trying to speed up a little bit the evolution. The first thing is, Konstantinos, I want to congratulate you, because no digital skills is son of the tracks. In every point, then at a certain moment you left in, we need to focus on digital skills. And then come the other priority on top of, because there is competitiveness, and then there is AI, and then there is digital skills is always going down, but you're still shouting that digital skills is important. To my marriage, it should be completely the way we want. And an example of this morning's saying digital skills for defense, that's the right way. Everybody who has a focus should have the obligation to at least have a stream on talent. So it should be cyber for talent, AI for talent, defense for talent, finance for talent, and then we have a chance that we will start really moving up. So I'm Saskia Vanhoeflem. I'm heading up since 2011 for the ones who were working for the Commission. I was one of the first working with Nelly Cruz when she was nominated. That's how old I am. And we were still talking ICT, and we were still doubting if everybody should have a PC überhaupt. And then in that role as a national coalition lead for digital skills and jobs, or skills leader for Belgium, or the digital champion, you call it, I don't have any money for it. It's just my social responsibility to try to strive to do the best of our society. But at a certain moment, I had a discussion in the defense a few years ago, and they were surprised. Because the CTM was discovered with an exercise with our troops outside in the field, like they normally plan, because it's very planned. So it was the month of we go do that exercise externally, and they suddenly discovered that every soldier had a private mobile phone in their pocket. And suddenly they've discovered that maybe that could be a weakness or a risk. Or put it that they discovered it when it is already happening. So now for Ivoria, which is the Technology Federation in Belgium, I'm working out a future workforce program. And one of the first thing is you need not to tackle the problem of today. You need to tackle the problem of tomorrow. So I heard a lot of coding, and I appreciate Cecilia. Don't make me say that I was, but sometimes I'm not completely agreeing. We are talking now about no code. We're talking about no code. We're talking about who is capable of writing the right prompt to AI. That's the competence we need tomorrow, prompt writers. So maybe, and the coding was important a few years ago, and I've started up a lot of initiatives, and the Code Week for Europe was one of the first we did when the idea was there. But we don't need to train of the things of yesterday, we need to train of the things which will come tomorrow. So, and Amanda and then Alan, baking in a study, trying to find out what will be the needs of tomorrow is an important one. That's what we've done with the Be the Change study now for years in 2018. We try to deal with all super sectors, and let's just get the definition of digital skills correct. Communication for me is a digital skill. If you have a cyber attack and you can't talk to your government or to your executive committee or your shareholders, then you will not be very relevant in that role. I hate the word soft skills, by the way. I prefer human skills. In the cyber world, human skills is 25% of the competences we need, because we need people who can think as a human to predict eventually who could be the bad guy of tomorrow. We don't only meet the techie boys. So it is much more than only AI and cyber. But we see some transitions, and then I'll come back on the impact on defense. Firstly, we can't find an elephant which is pink, having 7 feet, look like a bird, and stands like I don't know what. If we are saying all the curriculums we want to have, it's impossible. It's impossible. We're never going to find a person having all those competences and then today. And I should normally be, because my basic education is teaching, so I should normally be in front of a classroom, but I will tell you, I do understand that the regular education is a national responsibility, but it is moving with a slowness. Whatever we do, we are now defining. So the only way out is to focus on what I call non-regular education. And non-regular education, ladies and gentlemen, is the responsibility of nobody. So Europe can take it, local ministers can take it, whoever wants it, but that's the only way to be. Needs. We've done it with the local defense. They've started an action called Reboot, where we train and skill with basic skills in whatever the domain can be on vulnerable youngsters. And at the same time, we give them a little bit of the attitude which the army can bring to the life of people. But at least this is not a diploma, this is not a certification, this is not a standard curriculum, but it's not necessarily, because the technology changes that fast that we will have to reskill anymore after a year. And that's the second problem, is that even if we talk on non-regular education, we have a full-blown ecosystem. DigiConnect has created one with the National Coalition for Digital Skills and Jobs. Sadly enough, Digi Education is trying to do, and then maybe the third one will even be that more, and then we need 3 times the money to do one thing. Anyhow, maybe this stands for working. But we have a lot of solutions available in all countries, but we can't scale them. And so the collaboration between the industry and the initiatives which exist is important. Defense should hire people without a diploma. Industry should hire people without a diploma. And then coming back on the hierarchy, five brothers, maybe did something wrong in life. But we have the same problem. The grass is not greener elsewhere. The hierarchy we also know in big international organizations. For the ones who are working in big internationals, we know the spreadsheets. But we need to change the culture. We need the culture of the individual. It's not the responsibility of the army. The Cyber Command in Belgium is a transversal initiative, so it proves that you can change, even in a very structured world, the reality. But we need to learn the people that learning is their individual responsibility. And that's not a punishment. Secondly, we need to create opportunity to evolve. Now, as soon as you have a badge or a star or a stripe, you can have a second stripe, but doing the same thing. And like I said, the world is moving that fast that also on a learning culture, but also on a mobility culture, we need to be capable of changing people in positions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Saskia. Indeed, some new ideas about this irregularity. I don't know how defense can digest.
It's done regularly.
Yes, yes. But what I want to take away for me is that indeed, I am also a proponent of the fact that things that we are writing now as a material for people will not be relevant maybe in 2-3 years. It will be obsolete. So we need to train the people for the future, be innovative, and ensure, as I said, that we will have smart defense systems, but people also capable to operate them and be in a position, if things goes wrong, to fix them and ensure that they are resilient. But let's see from the European now perspective. We have 2 speakers. First, we will listen from Luga how the European Cybersecurity Competence Center and Network can help to close this skills gap in the civilian sector, and how we can adapt this in the military context.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Maybe just 2 seconds on what the ECCC is, because no one, it's kind of a new body of the union, has been established in 2021, but only became operative a few months ago. So we are responsible. It's nice that before the Draghi report was mentioned, the Ninisto report was mentioned, because some of the activity that the report include are under our responsibility. So reinforce the EU leadership and strategic autonomy on cyber, ensure more competitiveness of our company on the international market, and provide incentive for research. on cyber. So we are focusing on cyber. Out of the whole package of digital skill, our focus is on that. We do this. We fund two funds to, first of all, setting an agenda, a strategic agenda, which define the area of common investment. And then we are funding Digital Europe. By the way, someone stole the name. Digital Europe, probably we stole it from you. Digital Europe program and Horizon Europe. So this is our responsibility. Now, one of the parts is competencies, and this is where we go now. What are we doing now in terms of skill and competencies for cyber? Is not the main core of our investment, I have to be honest, because as many speakers before me already covered, this is an activity which is taken over from a number of bodies, by different TG of the Commission, by some executive agency, by some of the member states. So what we are trying to do now is to map first of all, we need to start from the beginning. So understanding what is the gap, where is the gap in cyber, how is the gap different in different member states. So we do this through a mapping of the institutions, the courses offered, the technology, and the educational offers that the European students and professionals find in their life. So this mapping is done. It's already on our website. We are working on it now. The next step is how we can support the implementation of a common curriculum. So it's true that we need to, and I agree with Saskia here, we need to focus not on university degree or not only university degree. We need to focus on courses which allow people to upskill and reskill. But also we need to have a common lexicon, a common taxonomy. So this is what we are doing with ENISA. ENISA was spearheading the initiative. We support with our work. So understanding the gap, defining a common language, and now understanding how we want to close this gap in the different sector and with the different funds that we have available. So this is what we have done. I think there is a lot that can be transported to the military domain. Of course, the skills are different. There is like an offensive part. There is a more operational part that we do not normally teach in training or schools. But there is a lot that can be done for, first of all, on the military domain, understanding that where is the gap, and making a threat assessment. The NIST report talk about the fact that we do not have a threat assessment, a risk assessment at European level now in a hybrid scenario. So where do we really need to invest so that we can optimize with funds and we share information? Let's say I will maybe close here. We can elaborate on something else if you want to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luca. I think it's very important. As you can see, this panel is enriching. It's not all the speakers say the same thing. I will say that if you want to become resilient, you need to be in a position to measure your vulnerabilities. And this is how you said very beautifully. You need to define the problem, you need to define the gap. And the second element is this cross-sectoral approach that you also mentioned, and Saskia, that there are no strict borders any longer, private, public, defense, war, and peace. This is blurring, and we have seen this. In the past, many years ago, 50 years, in the field, you could see a soldier with a uniform, and you know that it's a legitimated target. Now, anyone can be soldier with civilian clothes, with a weapon, or just sitting in a room and sending a missile via a drone or a kamikaze drone. So we need to think now out of the box what it means being more digitalized. And Cecilia said, we are all the systems are interconnected, and this is sometimes advantage, but it's also a vulnerability, because if one system collapses, then it creates vulnerability for other systems. But it will be interesting now to hear from the scientific hub of the European Commission. How do you think, Matteo, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity can help to enhance the European defense resilience? And what do you think will be the best idea to foster what we have mentioned before, this industrial, public, and defense collaboration?
Thank you, Konstantinos, and thank you to all the colleagues that spoke before me. So I am Matteo Paonni. I'm a deputy head of unit for space connectivity and economic security at the Joint Research Center in Ispra in Italy. So working on space connectivity, economic security, critical technology, clearly, I mean, digital is at the heart of our work, and it is now not. It is now a couple of years, and more when planning for future, that we see a competence spin-off from those technologies that were typically emerging in a civil sector to be more and more relevant for the defense sector. I mean, there is a general perception that probably need to be corrected that defense it's something I mean far away and isolated. You were just mentioning. I mean, defense is much closer to the civil sector than what we think, and the competencies that have to do with defense that are, I mean, completely blurred now with the civil domain are wider than what we think. I mean, the Ninisto report has been already mentioned. I mean, preparedness, development of critical technology, societal security, critical infrastructure protection, they are all civil, if you want, a field of competence that now are super relevant in the defense domain. So it is essential that we have, I mean, an adequate technology transfer between the civil and defense sector, favoring as much as possible synergies. I mean, those competencies, those technologies are there, available, developed, and to be immediately, let's say, taken over by the defense domain, which, by the way, is calling for that. So I am personally coming from the space sector. I've been working on Galileo and the European Space Program for years. I think space technology can represent somehow an example on that. I mean, Galileo was developed as a civil system, but is now fully embedded in the defense capability in Europe for most of the member states. So I mean I think this barrier that was there as a cultural mindset for many years is de facto not anymore there. We just need to take stock of that. So there are, as you said, several emerging technologies with a major relevance for defense. You mentioned AI, cyber, but I mean, we could mention, I said, space technology, quantum technology. We said a lot about quantum computing. Don't forget of the other side of the world, which is quantum key distribution, so quantum communication, which will become a major asset. So all of these elements need to, I mean, those are developments that happen in the civil domain, but they clearly will impact and are impacting already in a major way the defense domain. So we need just to favor spin ins and outs between civil and defense to make sure that all what is been already working on, what is happening, what is our reality today, is as soon as possible embedded into our defense world. So this means that we need to somehow keep on talking and probably acting in terms of complementarity, synergies, and cross-fertilization. I think this is happening already, but probably we need to help the defense sector to somehow understand the value of what the civil sector is developing, and the civil sector not to feel somehow the defense sector as too far or even not really comfortable with the civil technologies. They are de facto the same thing. In this, it's clearly important to support industries, including and maybe even more startups and SMEs to facilitate the access to those new opportunities. I mean, we do a lot in developing technologies, counter technologies. What we need is competence. What we need is deep understanding of these technologies, because whoever will be on the field, you mentioned about operators. I think we need probably a bit more than just operators. We need people that understand what is doing, because the technology that are now available, I mean, in the hands of an individual, have a major impact. And I think it is important that those individuals have an understanding of the impact of what they are using and operating every day.
Thank you. I think it was a very nice way to conclude this first round of discussion. I acknowledge the need to establish synergies, but to have synergies, we need to speak the same language. And the same language means the same level of understanding, as you very skillfully mentioned. Protection of critical entities is also something the armed forces, they need to involve more and more. because we are dependent. More than 90%, I think, of critical energy infrastructure is operated by non-armed forces. So they depend on them. So there are a lot of elements to consider. Now, I am tempted, as you said, not to follow the schedule that Chiara told me, and maybe you can punish me later, but I think I will do the following. I will place two questions. You choose only one to answer, and you will have only 1 minute. And only 1 minute, because I want to open the floor because I'm very curious to see what our audience here and only they are thinking. So I will be a bit tough, only 1 minute. Choose the question that you want to answer. So, what best practices and mistakes? I'm also interested to hear the mistakes are to avoid can help the defense sector in building the necessary skills in digital. Or, second question, it's Christmas. How can education, training, and EU initiatives can help to attract top talent? And I will ask Matteo to start first.
Yeah, got the microphone. I'll take the second. I mean, we mentioned a lot about education. So for sure, I think it's not difficult to recognize that we have a problem in STEM education. As a matter of fact, we by interviewing candidates for our positions, we see, lack of at least of variety of competencies, of enthusiasm for STEM technologies. But on the other, I think we need to work on the attractiveness. If we want to have these people, the few they are, but if we want those people to engage into the defense sector, we need to work on the attractiveness of this for young talents. Let's not forget that defense is perceived from a young scientist as, not really comfortable. So we need to explain that defense is not just, it is, but it's not just building missiles or weapons, but it's about really our daily life. A lot of related technologies have to do with defense, and it is important that we explain, why it's important to engage into this. We all would like and prefer to talk about something else because the world would be in peace and nothing to do. But this is our reality, and we need to engage with that.
Thank you. Go to Satya.
If I answer two in one, can I get 2 minutes? No.
But 1 minute.
No, just one thing, which is we have limited money. We all, if it's Europe or public sector or defense, we have limited money. So my recommendation is the following, and we've been participating in a lot of European projects, European Digital Innovation Hub, Cyber Hubs, which is combining, and a lot of good initiative, women in digital, women in cyber, whatever, and then following happens. You get the finance if you do three things. First, you have to make an analysis to show that there is a problem, as if we don't know that we have a problem. So that money, sadly to say, not well spent. Then we start something new, because that's what the criteria says to get access to money. You have to start a new initiative. And then comes the third step, then the initiative dies in silence because there is no money anymore. So what do? We go to a new funding. We make an analysis, we start anew, and it dies in silence. And my recommendation is make a two-steps financial approach. Firstly, scale what we already have. National, regional, cross-country, cross-member state, whatever, but only scale up what we already have. And the second one is, and it's approaching also with you, give us money for do communication. If the citizen doesn't know in Europe all the good things we have, then obviously they will not use it.
Very nice. Luca?
Yes, I'll take the first one. All right, start the timer. I think the name of the game now is preparedness, from reaction to preparedness. So what we need to do is, we're already late. I'm focused on the military part. We are obviously already late, and we cannot use the standard approach that we have in education with all the curriculum. One example, and I'm going to the one example, we see there is also a paper published by the SCDS in Estonia, which focus on the so-called cyber conscripts. And this is actually covering a few Nordic countries in which they have people from the university or from high school doing a period of military work on cyber, prepared on cyber. And then they're used and they're called in case of need. And the study showed that there are more volunteer than positions available. So maybe this is an area where we could look into engage outside of the normal recruitment for military campaign, but engage students, engage people from the industry on short period and train them on this particular skill which are necessary for cyber defense, which is again different than what we see in the civilian world. So this is one idea. I mean, obviously to be explored. I think we need to become a bit creative, because if we go back to the standard courses, and that we won't make it in time.
Good point, Laura.
Thank you. I cannot be more agree with all the panelists here. The gap in the market of digital skills is real, and as Matteo mentioned, we need to become or to close these STEM skills to the younger people. As well, as I mentioned in my speech, we need the collaboration. The private and the public sector is the only way to enhance and to have a skilled, advanced digital skill workforce to help with this system.
So I have the green light for questions and answers. So, who I would like to ask you to feel free. There is no stupid question or smart question. There is a question. First, the answer I don't know. What I would like is to kindly be brief, 30 seconds, because I know you will go more, but at least 30 seconds the question. But before, kindly introduce who you are and your entity. So, who will be the first? Everything was clear? I have many questions. But we have also online colleagues, if they have. So, any, yes, please.
I haven't really thought through how I would ask this question, but this is more targeted to you, Saskia. I'm from England, and we offer an apprenticeship system. And as you said, that it's important to not only employ people with diplomas, but also people who don't already have the education, and train them as they go through the process, especially as everything is evolving at such a high speed anyway. But I do think that it's also important that at the end of the whole process that there's some sort of certificate or acknowledgement that this person has done some training and has now achieved something and has these skills. Because obviously the dream is to stay in the same company for the entire time that you are working. But nowadays that doesn't happen anymore. I think my father, he stayed at the same company for 30 years, but it just doesn't happen anymore. So you want to be able to then move on to the next, your next step in your work. Yeah. Sorry.
So it's a question of firstly, for the future generations, there is nothing as a career path. I'm born, I study, I work, I pension, and I die. I mean, I've got 5 kids myself. They study a little bit, they work a little bit, then they study something completely different, then they change after 9 months of a company. I mean, for me as a boomer, it's a little bit bizarre, but that's how it goes. Firstly, secondly, there is another aspect. You can train the people, but if the industry, neither the defense recruits them, because they're still in their olds, you need to have 2 stars, 3 stripes before you may go to the first floor, then it's not going to fit. So we also need to invest in a change of recruitment culture. And gentlemen, any comparison is completely by accident. But if I talk to technology, I always compare them with men with blue suits and brown shoes. They need to change their mindset on the level of recruitment. They're not gonna hire a diploma, they're gonna hire potential. And that's also where the big discussion on diploma, certification, micro-learnings, I'm avoiding to lose my time. I'm impatient. So I do not want to sit in meetings on discussing with everybody on what it should be. For me, honestly, if somebody of those initiatives have delivered hundreds of people following that training, then I suppose they do something good. And depending on the expert level, and I'm sitting here in between three cyber experts, depending on the expert level, then becomes the necessity of micro learnings or certain certifications. But the ecosystem is creating it. So we do not need to wait for the regular education to have their curriculums in 2040. We can already start going in. The standardization is already happening. So I think it's a change of culture in hiring. It's continue on creating students and be perseverant in what you do. But also, I'm convinced, and I'm an optimist, that the standardization will cover your last points, avoiding a lot of discussions.
Thank you very much for the question and also for the answer. Any other questions? So what we'll do now is the following. You will have 1 minute to say something smart that the people, when they leave this room, they will say, it was a nice thought from Luca, Matteo, or Saskia. And then I will try to summarize with 4 key points that I already planned to say, but I will invent a bit. And then we have a coffee break. So let's start this time with Laura.
Wow, no pressure at all. Let's do it together. This is my message. Let's do it together. Let's face the goals together, and let's collaborate together. I believe is the only way to face the challenge.
Yeah, no, I would just say that this is what's called in economics a wicked problem. It's something that does not have a simple solution and a one type of solution. So I think we really need to find a different way of looking at this, and again, be creative, find new way of making sure that we have enough skill again with a combination of what the other speakers and the participants already mentioned.
I would take the title of my last book, which is Let's Dare for Tomorrow. We need to dare today to do things in a different way. Because if we only pull on the elastic and on the laws and on the way of working on yesterday, we're not going to make it. So be president of Europe in your minds and dare to take initiative to change the society.
I think we definitely live in difficult times, but I think the thing we are talking about, the technologies we are talking about, are extremely fascinating, no matter what. So getting engaged into this doesn't mean to just wear a uniform and start playing a role but rather to get engaged into technologies that have a value. I mean, in the difficult times we have, but even more in the better times we all hope to have soon. So I mean, there is a value there which goes beyond, I mean, the specific sector we discussed about which is defense and security. So we need to have people engaged into this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think they meet expectations. This card is not any longer relevant. So I will say 2 things only. Even the most advanced technologies cannot deliver their potential unless you have the people to operate. That's my first. Secondly, I'm really proud to join Digital Europe only 2 months ago. I'm leading the defense activities, and indeed, we are trying to advocate for more funding, skills, and to ensure that the armed forces, they have access to the civilian market and they don't need to develop from the scratch. With this, I would like to thank you all for being here today with us, and I think they deserve a nice applause from all of us.
We have heard about the importance of upskilling and reskilling that are essential to address the skill gap in the defense sector, and also how to use dual use technologies are critical in the sector. I'm going to take the words from Laura, saying that collaboration across sectors is key to be successful, and also that we have to do it together and we have to begin it today. So, and now I come with the good news. We are going to break 15 minutes for the coffee break. So let's convene again at 11:20. Thank you. So welcome back here in Brussels and also our online attendees. So it's a pleasure to introduce the next panel that will be about European digital skill strategy. Really, in this second panel, we will focus on the European digital skill strategy, and we will discuss the strategies for really aligning skills development with market needs and market trends, addressing the challenges of the industry and mainly SMEs, and ensuring that Europe workforce is prepared for future trends. Moreover, we will put our ESA project, the European Sector Skills Alliance in software services and cloud computing, as an example in many cases. And I'm glad to welcome our moderator, Vincenzo Renda, who is the Director for Single Markets and Digital Competitiveness at Digital Europe. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our panel entitled The European Digital Skills Strategy. Today, we're going to talk about a big challenge, but perhaps also an even bigger opportunity, that of really closing the gap in digital and software skills in Europe. And we've already had some very, very interesting insights, and we would like to build on those. I will start off by saying that the facts essentially speak for themselves. The EU aims for 20 million ICT specialists by 2030, but we're on track just to arrive to reach 12 million by that year. So that will leave an 8 million gap that can really risk to stall Europe's digital progress. 3 out of 4 companies, that's I think quite a bold figure, but 3 out of 4 EU companies can't find the digital talent that they desperately need. And I think at a time where there are more and more discussions around competitiveness in Europe, this is something very, very important. So thankfully, and already Jose mentioned that, there are interesting initiatives like ESA, the European Software Skills Alliance. They can be part of the solution. They can really help address this digital skills gap. You can see here some of the results. We will build on those, but you can see pretty much what ESA has achieved. Just in a nutshell here, first of all, it is focused on high demand roles like developers, DevOps experts, solution designers. These are very, very important technical roles when it comes to the software space. It has mapped out 9 profiles in the software market and also aligned them with European standards, which is important. And this can help to provide a clear learning pathway from junior to more advanced roles. Also, very importantly, based on those roles that were mapped, it has provided and developed modular programs for training. This mix micro-credentials and soft skills. So I'll be also very happy to unpack how, what's the role of training when it comes to plugging this digital skills gap that we have today in Europe. And also, it has helped to create a European aligned certification framework. So this is important to say, it's not just theory, because ESA has piloted its programs in 8 European countries and has already trained over 240 learners in high demand roles. So this is very important because it can provide part of the solution to the problems. So I want to unpack these challenges and opportunities with 3 great speakers today. So I invite you to give them a big round of applause as I will introduce them and they will join me on stage. Let's kick off with Pilar Rock, who is Director General at Ametic. Bonnie, please. Katarzyna Koziu, Principal Business Developer for Global Education at Amazon Web Services. Morning. And Georgi Dimitrov, who is Head of Unit for Digital Education at DGAC of the European Commission. So good morning, Georgi. Great. So I really look forward to an interactive discussion. I think here, we've set the stage. There are interesting initiatives that can help to address this skills gap. I think the insights before provided also a very interesting overview of what are the challenges, but also the opportunities. I want to kick off with you, Pilar. In Ametic, you represent, among others, many SMEs that try to innovate in a number of different areas in digital. And we know that these SMEs often struggle to hire the ICT specialists that they really need. So just tell us, what are the reasons? And if you look at initiatives like ESSA, how we can address these problems, what are the barriers that we need to lower for them?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here with you sharing this important and critical issue, which is talent. Well, yes, Ametic, we are representing more than 15,000 companies, from small companies to large corporations. And for all of them, all of these companies, getting the correct talent, digital talent, is a problem. It's a problem. You said 3 out of 4 companies don't find this specific talent. In our last report for salaries and workforce and labor market, we found out that 90% of companies in Spain don't have difficulties in order to find the ICT talent for their needs. And 1 out of 4 of the candidates just fulfill all the requirements. So Cecilia said at the beginning of the event that we have a huge problem specifically for critical infrastructures because, well, nowadays most of them depend on technology. And I think that we could consider talent a critical infrastructure. Why? Because we need people to manage these critical infrastructures. And if we don't have the right people, we are, facing a big risk. In the case of the small and medium enterprises, this is even worse. Why? Because there is a gap between offer and demand in the market, and this has some consequences, like salaries are raising a lot. There is not enough people to fulfill these positions, and the big corporations, big companies, which have employer branding, huge brands, financial resources, social packages, benefit packages, and a good offer for the employees, they are much very well positioned in order to get this talent. And this is not the case for the small and medium enterprises. And on top of that, the thing is that these not so big companies, they need this specific talent not only for coding, not only for software development, but also for business as usual tasks as marketing or as business development, and they need people who IT knowledge. So this is something that could be a problem in order to maintain their competitiveness. So this is like a vicious cycle. It is tough to get resources, and it is tougher when you are a small and medium enterprise. So, and I finish, the ESA project is fantastic. It's a great initiative, but we really need to make it closer for the small businesses.
Excellent. Thanks very much indeed, Pilar. Let's move to you, Kasia. You essentially bridge the gap, or were to bridge the gap between tech companies and education. What are the real blockers really for effective public-private partnerships in Europe?
Thank you very much, Vincenzo. Thank you for invitation. And let me congratulate on ESA because projects like European Software Skills Alliance are really making positive contribution to development of software skills across Europe. One of the achievements that I can highlight of the project was really translating software professions across different levels of vocational education that allowed new learners to obtain skills for professions such as developer, software tester, outside of higher education. modular programs with micro-credentials were key to opening up those software professions to a wider audience. However, and if I may use it as a real-life example of actually challenges in such projects and also to public-private partnership, as a advisory board, what we observed, one of the challenge was around founding rules of a project. So the rules made basically almost impossible to incorporate into curricula vendors' certifications. And the team made a really excellent job on mapping 23 vendor certifications into learning outcomes for relevant for the project software professions. But learners were unable to benefit from any vendor certification simply due to funding logic. And as Vincenzo said, there were pilots running across Europe where real learners were actually following ESA curricula, and again without vendor certification. And I think it's a missed opportunity because vast majority of employers prefer candidates who can prove with micro-credential, given a badge or certification, who passed through vendors industry training, who can prove it. We have also statistics for it. I can quote it later. Anyway, moving back to solutioning, and it was already said on panel 1. So it's very important to actually check what's going on and what also the industry is already doing to address the skills gap, as it's such a persisting issue. And at AWS, ourselves, we clearly hear our customers and partners mentioning that finding and recruiting skilled staff with cloud capabilities, in our case mostly, is very challenging. And this is why we already launched in 11 countries globally initiative called AWS Skills to Jobs Tech Alliances. But another way how organizations are addressing the problem of skills shortages, maybe a little bit less SMEs than larger organizations, is actually upskilling their own teams through training. And when it comes to cloud skills, they very often use our learning platform, which is called AWS Skills Builder, where they upskilled individuals. We have more than 600 courses from which organizations, also public sector organizations and individuals, are creating their learning paths. Recently, very popular is generative AI one, of course. Let me conclude just with stating the obvious, that digital skills gap is not only the issue of tech sector. It's the skills are needed in every sector of the economy, so it's a problem for all of us.
Thanks very much. And I think very important points highlighted there, including on the design of funding schemes and how to improve it at European level. Thank you. Let's move to you, Georgi. And I think this discussion happens at a very, very timely moment, because the new commission will be soon take office. And if we look at the mission letter of the new executive vice president, Binzatu, there's a goal to build a union of skills, which sounds really ambitious. Director General Hansen already mentioned it before. Can you elaborate on whether this can help to address also the digital skills gap, and how?
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I was looking at my watch. Well, it's a phone, but now it functions as a watch, because the timing is very good, because the commission is about to get voted in as we speak at some point in Strasbourg around midday. That's why I was watching there, not for any other reason. Now, back to your question, I think the problems were set very nicely in the morning, so I won't speak about the lack of digital skills, the percentages, how badly we do, because I think this is, I see nodding there, I think this is very well aware. it is, first of all, quite interesting to see that the future commissioner for skills and preparedness or education will be the same person if that happens, if this is voted today. This is a bit of a novelty for the European level, because so far it has been dealt with by two different people, one dealing with employment and social policy, and the other one dealing with education, culture, and so on. Now, this will be one person, so it is quite, I think, clear that there will be a lot of gravitational forces, and there will be a lot of cross-fertilization between these two domains. So naturally, there will be more cooperation between them. It's unavoidable, and I think this is good news, first of all. When it comes to what the Executive Vice President Minzato has been asked for, the brief is very clear. She needs to support the competitiveness and innovation agenda from the point of view of skills. And I want to kind of go back to the SME question to just make the point here about where I think we could make a difference, first of all, at the larger scale. I mean, it is a truism that 99% of the economy consists of SMEs. And if the SMEs need digital skills as badly, you would say, I mean, without a lot of sophistication, maybe you need also 99th level of people with digital skills. So this is where the problem starts, first of all. So it's very basic. And the first thing which I think this commissioner or this mandate will lead us to is an action plan on basic skills. This has been something which has been announced, and it has been asked for. This comes back to the poor results in PISA, not only in digital skills attainment, which we heard, but also in PISA. And why I'm mentioning this at all is because we have come to acknowledge over the last 15, 20 years, also because of the work of associations, of organizations such as Digital Europe, but basically of all of you, we have come to acknowledge that digital skills are actually basic skills. So this is no longer sort of a vertical which is somewhere in the corner to be dealt with. They really need to be addressed at the same level of urgency as reading, writing, and mathematics. So this is quite conceptual, maybe it's too high level, but it's actually something that you need to start with if you want to achieve very, let's say, ambitious targets as the ones that we have heard of in the morning. And I think with this action plan on basic skills, where of course we will talk about how we are doing in terms of reading, writing, and all these problems, we will also now address the question of digital skills for the population at large. This comes on top of the digital decade targets that we have, but we need to also push them much more to the education sector. Second point, which also helps to address this at a larger level, is related to the, let's say, competitiveness agenda and the need for advanced specialists such as those in ICT. It was also spoken of this morning. But if you think about any competitive area where today global competition takes place, take, sciences, chemistry, technology, all of this is digital. I mean, if you think about synthetic biology or biomanufacturing or things like this, it may come from biology, it may come from chemistry or from the sciences, but it is sort of biology/computer science now. So it's kind of bilingual. You need to be fluent in a science, and then you need to be fluent also in the digital kind of language. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the commissioner has also been asked to contribute to the Union of Skills with a STEM education initiative, which will need to include the very vast level of digitalization that we see. So this is a bit more on the high level. That I think we will see a lot of action on, acknowledging that we need as large a base as possible in order to address, SMEs and of course then the bigger companies, or let's say the more specialized companies. Now, with view of the final point I wanted to mention with regard to the project, to congratulate you first of all on the project. I I like a lot this project because, believe it or not, before I came to work in the European Commission, I worked in software development myself. So I spent almost 4 years on this. And I think I know this a little bit from the inside. I think there is a major challenge to be addressed here in terms of the crossover between a project such as this one, and I'm speaking a little bit more openly, and the education sector, where it needs to kind of have an impact on. Why? Because in a way, the education sector does not really. I mean, it's not so important what software skills are for the education sector. What the education sector cares for is disciplines such as computer science, in the best case scenario, coding, and things like this. And it is very important for such a project, which is great in terms of its value from what I have seen, and I look forward now to see the results of it. It's going to be very important to take this and to kind of take the essence of it and to describe also in more education and training terms what is relevant for education and training institutions in terms of building this type of specialists. Because the education sector normally does not, it is not output driven. At least not output driven in terms of software specialists. It is output driven in different ways. But my point is that because there is this feeling that a project is a great thing, but then it ends, and this is, I think, the death valley, of the projects. I think it's going to be very important to take the lessons of such a great project and to try to make them understandable for people who are also less specialized, and maybe to bring them to education and training institutions which are somehow closer, to this idea of maybe they work more closely with universities who develop software specialists. And I think that this is my last point. This is absolutely necessary because unless the private sector supports the education and training institutions to get there, it is very unlikely that it's going to happen. First of all, it will come with a huge delay because the market is much faster than the let's say education and training sector. It is also much more able to explain exactly what it means. And also because it is in the intrinsic interest of the private sector to support education and training to develop this type of skills, because we're back to, square one. You need this type of people. So you're almost dependent on doing this a little bit more for yourself. But it's quite important to try to integrate it into the education sort of schemes.
Thanks very much, Georgi, for your comments. Very interesting insights, and I'll turn to you, Kasia. Georgi has alluded that the importance of convergence with the educational sector. I think also mentioned that this is a fast evolving space with new important digital skills that emerge, and there is probably a need to address those in a timely fashion. So I want to ask you, we know that the digital skills gap is still persisting in the EU. We've mentioned the stats already. Are there critical shifts that the EU must make when it comes to addressing those gaps and shortages? We have now this very interesting initiative, the Union of Skills. What do you think about that?
Well, it's easier said than done, but making lifelong learning a reality is crucial. And coming from my sector, which is cloud computing, need to remember that cloud computing is the ultimate enabler that allows other technology trends such as AI or IoT to grow, to develop, to scale rapidly. But the innovation in cloud computing is moving very, very fast. Therefore, to stay up to date, this culture of continuous learning for any users or developers is needed. And also continuous learning, anyways, is building resilience, is enabling organizations and individuals to better anticipate disruption, to better navigate change, and simply adapt. But micro-credentials are inseparable part of lifelong learning. coming back to it again. They allow individuals to validate their knowledge and skills through after shorter units of learning. Ultimately, actually, they can build the whole degrees. Such shorter learnings are also easier to adapt and to update with fresher content, which which is very important and very much used in non-formal and formal education. For continuous learning culture, the training offer needs to be also adaptable, and from our side, we keep it all in mind when we were building our training platform. So AWS Skill Builder, allowing for flexible learnings and to fit to busy schedules of actually often people who already have work, and creating validation through badges and certifications. Coming back to public-private partnerships, which are another part of solutions, and there might be some shifts to be made. We often speak here when we talk about educations about formal education. The panel before was mentioning how the change is slow and so on. But currently the education landscape is very, very broad. It really takes informal and non-formal education. It with training providers, with edtechs. Those players are very often forgotten by at least funding and their role. So coming back to public-private partnerships between employers, educational institutions really broadly understood, academia and governments, when they work together, they ensure that actually training is market relevant, and they enable faster knowledge transfer from industry to educational institutions. And this is what we are trying and what we're aiming for with AWS Skills to Jobs Tech Alliances. And we see the results because thanks to the partnerships that we have, there is young talent that it's better prepared for employment. They gain access to jobs, and the companies themselves, so very often our partners and customers, they have actually access to the talent pool. So coming back to your questions in a summary, what shifts are required to align with industry needs? Lifelong learning and really growing existing initiatives before creating new ones. Something that Saskia was telling before. There is really a lot going on. And very often those initiatives are very successful. So very important to look into them.
Thanks very much for your points. And let's move to you, Pilar. This union of skills that is emerging in the discussion. If you look at that, what do you think is the number one thing that you should prioritize in it?
Thank you. Georgie, thank you for the proposals from the EU for this digital or union education skills union education, wherever. But I really think that for the small and medium enterprises, the basic digital skills or the rules for the basic education, it is not enough. It is too late because you mentioned it. We are, or they are, in fact, 90% of the economy. And if we start at the schools with these digital skills, we will get the professionals there in 12 or 15 years. So I really think that for maintaining the competitiveness of these companies and this means of our economy, we really need to push, a little bit more from the public sector in this vision. Why? Because the big corporations and big companies, of course, they are struggling also, and they are doing a lot of things in order to get this specific talent. But for the small companies, this is not so easy. So that's why I want to take advantage of this opportunity of being there, talking directly to the European Commission in order to try to transmit that for the big percentage of companies, I think we really need to still push a little more with this kind of projects. So with the ESA project, I think it's a great initiative that should continue. But regarding this gap for the small companies, I think first of all, could be a good idea to do more profiles, broaden the profiles you've already developed, not only for software development skills, but also for any other profiles related to technology, data, cybersecurity, and also online or digital marketing, sales, and so on for the small companies, because it's important to have, a kind of profile for different factions, because as you said, Katia, there are a lot of training opportunities, but there is not a correct path in order to follow. So broaden the profiles, more communication in the countries, and also at the European level. Saskia said there are there are resources, there are tools, but we really need to make awareness out of it and all that. And for the small businesses, it's important the collaboration with institutions locally in every country in order to get them to know about SS projects, and in order to be closer, no, about the tools, the profiles, the opportunities, mainly the importance of doing that, because it's a question of survival. And in the short term, in the very, very, very short term, I think that collaboration between corporations and small companies is key to succeed. Is key to succeed because the small companies can take advantage of the services that AWS can provide them, and so they can focus on another thing, the small company, not for the AI development, services, cloud, and these kind of things. So I really think that we could push for collaboration between corporations and small companies in order to get the small companies upskilled and re-skilled before dying, because most of them will die if they don't get the right people now or in 3 years, no longer. That's the thing. And I think that this could be the way to get that in a short term. In a medium and in a long term, of course, it's great to have, the basic digital skills, objectives, peace agreements, KPIs, and so on. But in the short term, I really think we must do something more. And in this moment, private initiatives are not enough, because all of us, we are struggling. Universities are struggling, training institutions are struggling, corporations are struggling, and I think that the public sector must move forward at this moment and say, okay, let's go and organize this. We have resources. Let's go and organize it.
Thanks a lot, Pilar. Last question to you, Georgi, before we open the floor for questions from the audience. I'll let you reply if you want on Pilar's suggestions, and also if you can expand a little bit on how the Commission can adapt to create initiatives that can address the needs of the market and continue to be relevant.
Yes, thank you. I think that the need to move faster is I think evident, and nobody, I think, is under any illusion that we have to wait for this to happen. I think first of all, when I deal with education, so I can speak about that. It's a long only business, so it's nothing you can do overnight, and I think that that is not a defeatist statement. It's a matter of reality and being realistic, because you can also move fast and you can also break a lot of things, and we've seen also some of these things happening in education. So I think this is a very long-term, let's say, investment. But the more important thing is that this is where also I think we need to do this together with the member states. And my boss was mentioning council recommendations, which are the tools that institutions have at their disposal when they work at the European level in the field of education. Because, as probably many of you would know, this is a question of subsidiarity. And when the treaty says specific things, then of course, we can create stories around them. But it is very difficult to move beyond them, because member states are very jealous of their, and I mean it because I have been negotiating with them on a number of things. But, as I said, this is not a reason to despair or to say no. I think the question is how to be creative. And if anything, if you work in education at the European level, you learn that because there's not much that you can do anyway. So you have to be sort of creative. Erasmus started as a program which somebody came up in the 80s and said, why don't we move just people around because they might learn something? Look at what is there. Well, it took some 35 years, of course. Now it's a flagship, but so it's a long business, and it takes some creativity. Now, in terms of what maybe we can support this with, I want to agree with the fact of the um, diversity of the education system. It is very important to acknowledge the different providers in this field. It's not always in the interest of the providers themselves, I have to say. But it is very important to acknowledge this because people, especially those of us who develop some sort of digital qualifications, many of us use a variety of sources, and many of them are very informal. They're also self-regulated. So it is very important to acknowledge this with more modern, let's say, methods such as the micro-credentials that you have spoken of, or some sort of micro-badges, certification schemes, and things which allow for signaling to the marketplace that you have this type of skills without having necessarily, the master's degree from University XYZ. We very much support it. And as I mentioned, it's a contentious area because it is in the hands of the institutions, of course. So traditionally, it is something which the universities are guarding very carefully, of course. And anybody who knows competition, knows that what it means to compete with somebody who has a monopoly on something. So it's not easy, but this is where the journey goes to. So we support this. The whole point of digital education, the unit I lead, is about this type of democratization of education. This is about moving beyond the linear and making best use of different offers. We also speak about things like personalization, which technologies such as AI can help you with. We have every year in the Erasmus project, so I'll do a little bit of advertisement here. In Erasmus, we have a key action 3, which is a specific type of projects which we support policy experimentations. And we now just launched it 2 weeks ago, and one of the priorities we put out is assessment of digital skills. Well, I invite you to look at that because this is about tackling a very big problem. How do you assess digital skills in the first place? There is no kind of formula for that which is accepted at the European level. So we have given the opportunities at the European level through Erasmus. The project is open, and we try to also promote the public / private cooperation on this. And on the point of Pilar for the big and smaller companies working together, I would like to just add, it would be very important to add also the public institutions in this, because there is this also element of competition when it comes to certification, let's say. Let's be honest about it. Vendor is not something new. Vendor-based certification is there since Microsoft is in the business. This is like 40 years old, Cisco systems and so on. And this is a very strong line of work. And we need to bring this closer also to the public kind of provision. Also because the public provision would profit from that, not least because the expertise they don't have as strongly as some of these vendors have. What I think is very important, coming back to also the public nature of education in most of the European countries, is that we bring these paths a little bit closer together. And I think that the way to do that is through thinking about creative public-private partnerships. So it's not competing in parallel, even though sometimes this is probably the right way to do things faster. But in the long run, if we want to have a bigger change in terms of the numbers, like the sheer scale of it, the public sector will need to become kind of a more active part of it. And we are ready to do our part on that. And as I said, if my commissioner is voted, maybe we can continue that conversation. So thank you.
Thanks very much. And on this note of hope, let's now take questions from the audience. So, yes, I think there is a mic that will be given to you. Perfect. So please introduce your organization and then your brief question to the panelist or any of those specifically.
Good afternoon. My name is Xander Lop. I'm a professor of organization and digital transition and at Utrecht University of Applied Sciences. And I'm involved in a research project and digital for sustainability. And also have been looking on the sidelines at SS. My colleague is working on this. So first of all, thank you for all of your wise words and describing the challenges that we're all facing. And I agree that it's a much bigger field than just the classical education institutes that need to deal with this. And I think the classical education institutes also will need to change and incorporate more lifelong learning, shorter courses, more digital, grappling the change to using generative AI in education, all of that. But I wanted to reflect particularly on the projects and the way they're running and the effectiveness on that, because that's been a big topic in your session, but also Saskia van Uffelen talked about this in the last session, and the DG talked about this, that there are these 4-year projects and they end and then it dies. Wouldn't it be an idea if we have a 4-year project that is successful, that we create a tag-on structure so we can move that from sort of the startup phase to a scale up, and actually we're working on long-term sustainability in these projects, but we're stopped at the end of the 4 years where we're just getting traction and we have all these associated partners and we're building an ecosystem of organizations that want to work with this, but we're not quite at that point where it is ready. Isn't that an idea that we just do, for instance, 2 more years on top of a successful project so we can actually get it rolling?
Thank you very much. Who wants to take this up? Maybe you, Georgi, you mentioned before some of the programs.
Because you have, the key to answer, but I think it's a great idea. And in fact, I thought that it worked like that before. I'm quite new in this European landscape. And I think this is the great approach, in order to prove through projects and then to scale up these projects to a bigger thing.
It's a million euro question, as you realize. There is such a thing like subsidy inertia as well. The moment you know that you can prolong something, you start already to frame the whole exercise like this. And I think this is part of the reason why there is certain rigidity around the cutoff. And arguably, this sounds like a good idea. I have to admit, I have heard it also before. It's not like we do not like to see the continuation of the project. It's only that from a budgetary terms and also from I think from an intervention logic point of view, which is what we apply, it doesn't really, let's say, square it. But I think that because your startup analogy is something which I liked a lot, I think that some of these projects can continue in a different disguise, meaning that maybe there should be different sizes of projects. For example, this is a sector skills alliance. Sorry, we get technical here, but this is a sector skills alliance kind of project. It has specific volume, it has specific, let's say, priorities. But if you go over to Erasmus Key Action 2, you would have many, many, many more opportunities in terms of numbers of projects that can be supported. I mean, it's thousands, basically. They are smaller, but there are creative ways to kind of, let's say, roll over and maybe to continue that. I think this is what I would say at this stage.
If I can just say one point, but again, we're going back into idea of writing new projects, just smaller, the potential you might get the funding, and that's I mean, I don't have an answer for it, but we touch here upon, you say 4-year project, then there is 7-year budget. Now with a last round of, MFF, there is a midterm review with possible changes and so on. But anyway, all the structures are very, very resistant to change. And what you're talking about ESA, there is a bunch of really successful projects, maybe not wholly, there is always something to probably improve. But yeah, writing another project is not really an answer to it, I'm afraid. So probably we all need to be more active when, the next budgets are being set and when there is the consultations of Commission for the programs, unfortunately.
Thanks very much, Kasia, for your points, as well as George and Pilar's. Lots of interesting questions in this panel, but we need to close it and stick to the allotted time. I know there are a lot of other people that would like to ask questions, but I think in wrapping it up, this has been a very interesting discussion for a few reasons. First, I see from the experts that initiatives like ESA are indeed the way forward, and there is an interest to see how these pilots can scale up further and further in Europe, because they can help to provide they're part of the solution essentially to address the digital skills gap. I think it has emerged very, very prominently in this discussion, the role of public-private partnerships, which also means including not just industry and the European Commission, but also really the local authorities and the educational entities that have an important role in that. You also mentioned before member states as well. So the dialogue in the next Commission mandate with member states would be crucial. I think another point that has emerged prominently, role of lifelong learning. I think many of you mentioned areas that are just now emerging that will become more and more important, or maybe there will be other technologies that require the Commission to work with industry to address those. And so micro-credentials came into the discussion. I know the Commission has launched a European approach to micro-credentials. I think that's something really, really interesting and helpful. And then how to take it further in the next mandate, that is also interesting. You mentioned, let's not forget also the basic digital skills, because that is also where we need to start off. And I think also, Georgi, you mentioned that they should also be, not overlooked. So this is a very interesting discussion. I really appreciated it. And I would like to thank the speakers here on stage, and I look forward to the next panel. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, Vincenzo, and thank you, the panelists, for your outstanding contribution. Let me just make an announcement that I was thinking to announce at the end in the closing remarks. But at Digital Europe, we are launching a Digital Professional Skills Alliance to sustain the ESA project as the first project that we have finalized, and the rest of skill-related projects that we are leading or participating. And then let me highlight some key aspects of panel 2. Really, we have learned how public and private partnerships are essential to address the skill gap. We have also understood what are the challenges of the SMEs to hire ICT professionals. And also we have probably understood better how initiatives like ESA are aligning training and market needs. But we have also understood that there is a path of new things to do. And then I'm going to introduce our last panel, Leveraging Standards for Consistent Digital Skills Training. This panel will explore the role of standardization in ensuring cross-border recognition of certification, and also developing frameworks for advanced ICT competence. It is my pleasure to welcome the moderator of this session, Elena Lovegrove, Senior Director for Operation and Projects at Digital Europe. Elena, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jose, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being here. And so previous speakers have highlighted the pressing needs for having more ICT professionals in order for Europe to drive innovation and be at the forefront of the digital transformation. We've also heard of some initiatives like ESA that are addressing some of the key skills gaps. In this session, we'll focus on the essential role of standardization in creating a cohesive and impactful approach to digital skills training across Europe. So standards are crucial not only for ensuring consistency and quality of education, but also for enabling cross-border recognition of qualifications, aligning with market needs, and supporting Europe's competitiveness on the global stage. So we have some frameworks like the e-competence framework, we have the European cybersecurity skills framework that are helpful in harmonizing our efforts here. And we are using those frameworks in several of our projects at Digital Europe. So we've already heard about ESSA, focusing on software services skills. We have ARISA, focusing on AI skills. And we have cyber hubs focusing on cybersecurity skills, where we are using these frameworks. So we are in this panel going to dig a little bit deeper into the subject. And I'm delighted to introduce you to our panel of experts. And so welcome to the stage. We first have Andrea Gulaschi, Director. Yeah, welcome. You can all come on stage. So Andrea Gulaschi, she's Director of Policy and External Affairs at CEN and CENELEC. You're leading collaborations with policymakers and industry to ensure European standards drive innovation, inclusivity, and sustainability. So welcome to you. And we also have Wanda Sabo. You're a Senior Education and Standardization Expert. You're Chair of the Education and Training Working Group at CEN in the Technical Committee driving the development of key European standards for ICT professionalism and digital skills curricula. And you are here really bridging the gap between design and implementation. We also have Emilio Davila Gonzalez, Head of ICT Standardization Sector at the European Commission, DG Connect. You're leading strategies to align ICT standardization policies with Europe's goals for competitiveness, resilience, and global leadership. Welcome to you all. So before I go into more specific questions, I'd like to invite you all maybe to make your first own remarks on the topic and the role that you're playing in this field. So maybe, Andrea, I can start with you.
No, thank you very much. I guess you can hear me. Microphones are on. I was told I should look for the red button, and then they're on. Good afternoon. Thank you very much to Digital Europe for inviting CEN and CENELEC in this important debate. I think it's now with the new commission coming as well, and my commissioner hopefully being voted in, the Romanian commissioner who will focus on digital skills. I think it's a very timely debate to have this. As mentioned, I work for CEN and CENELEC. For those of you not familiar with CEN and CENELEC, we're the European standards organizations. We're recognized by a framework regulation at the European level to develop standards. Of course, the expertise and the history we have is very much in technical standardization. So now this shift into, as you were mentioning, digital skills recognition of qualifications and professions is something that is becoming apparent in our digital technical standards committees as well. We have a range of activities across AI, across cyber, across data protection, digital product passport. And of course, with that comes as well, who is going to implement that? What are the skills required to take these technologies forward at the European level? And we are a membership-based association. I think a public-private partnership was mentioned in the panel before. We are part of a public-private partnership with the European Commission. And I think part of the discussion we will have today is also how can we transfer needs from industry, needs from the education sector through standardization and make coherent policies as well. And that's a bit the expertise that I bring to the table in my team as well. We deal with innovation and research. Research projects were mentioned. We deal with policy engagement, with industry engagement. Digital Europe is a very strong partner of CEN and CENELEC, and we work across a lot of technical and soft skills work together. And I'm happy to share all that with you today here. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So I pass on to Wanda.
Yes, thank you, Elena. And also many thanks to Digital Europe for this fantastic opportunity to talk about standards in this really international setting at this Digital Skills Summit, because I think it's a really important topic to discuss. Wanda Sabil, I work as a education consultant, and I'm involved in several European projects. But my main focus is actually on standardization and IT professionalism. So I'm convener of the working group on education and training for the TC 428, and that's the technical committee that's involved with IT professionals. Yeah, their focus is on IT professionalism as a whole ecosystem. So we're considering it's digital skills. It's just a very small part of that whole ecosystem, actually. And we're actually looking at how do you apply skills, competences in a broader professional context. And that's really important when developing standards related to ICT professionals.
Thank you, Wanda. So over to you, Emilio.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation to be here in this panel. And you have heard already from colleagues from the Director General of Education and Culture of the different policies to promote skills. And I will try to bring the other dimension, which is why do we need standards in order to support this. And thinking about that, if you see, I think that they have explained already, the colleagues, but the European Union is a curious region with 27 member states, different language, different cultural models, different way of seeing life, and there, if we want to be competitive and efficient, in particular in the digital transition, we need really to have an efficient implementation of the single market, and in particular also the digital single market we are talking here. And for that, we need to ensure also mobility of persons, of professionals, and this is where we need a coherent framework of digital skills that would allow for that. Otherwise, we may not be leading this race on competition. And for that, if we really want a pan-European frameworks, and we need to have solutions that are interoperable and allow the seamless activities in Europe across the member states, or even the mobility of first students and then professionals, one important tool is standardization, because we have seen since the single market was introducing the concept. And that's why the European Standardization Organization, SNLEC, and also later ETSI, were creating to promote this, produce these standards that can provide interoperability and that can make sure that the different services and business operate in the whole Europe. And they have really been very useful. And I also believe that for the digital skills, this is also something where they can provide, because they provide interoperability, quality, ensure quality, security, and also something that we have been talking already, certification. So for that, I think it makes sense to talk about the standards. Yeah.
Thank you very much, all three of you. So we talk about collaboration a lot. So maybe I can ask you, Andrea, if you can share some successful examples of collaborations between CEN and CENELEC and industry players in shaping digital skills standards, and also maybe if you can highlight some of the challenges that you faced.
Sure. No, happy to. I want to give you, because I think there were quite a few examples given before in the panels. I want to give you 3 examples of different types of collaboration around education, around standardization, around specific example of digital skills being picked up in standardization. First, because we are part of a public-private partnership and we want to have this discussion between industry, between the policymakers, between the standardizers, some of you might be familiar with the high-level forum. It was an initiative launched by the European Commission to bring together, it's a bottom-up initiative to bring together industry, to bring together standardizers, academia, to dive into specific priorities, let's call it like this, for a European standardization. One of the work streams there is education about standardization. So before we even come to standardization about digital skills, about ICT skills, is the very first step. How is standardization being picked up in education? How are universities teaching or using standards in their curricula? And we do notice, particularly with new technologies and with new areas of standardization coming to the European framework for SEN and SENELEC, that we need experts. We need experts who are familiar with standardization. We need experts who understand what standardization can bring to their products, to their services, what is interoperability, what is connectivity. And for that, one of the reflections, at least in the high-level forum, is as well to embed standardization at the academic level. And that's a very successful collaboration. Digital Europe is part of that work stream. Ourselves as SEN and SENELEC, we're working very closely with the university. It's led by the TU Delft. So we hope that that will be one catalyst to bridge this gap between standards and education. Then another, I'd say more concrete project that we are part of, and I think Horizon Europe projects were mentioned before, Erasmus Plus projects were mentioned before. We're part of a project as a partner, Education for Standardization, Edu for Standards. That as well is also looking at how much is the ecosystem between academia, university, standardizers, and industry talking to each other. We have here an example, and I'm sure that will be going into a lot deeper into the example that we have about standards on ICT professionals. But how much is this collaboration and the benefit of standardization in skills known at the national level? And this project that we're embarking on is looking at really bridging that gap between the standards organizations, between the academia at the national level, between the industry, identify what are the needs from industry, from emerging technologies in terms of standardization. Are there educational needs that then academia can pick up or standardize or agree on a curricula, on a modular curricula for education about standardization that we can deploy? So that's another example. I do echo very much the concerns raised to the earlier panel about the continuity of these projects. We all invest a lot in these projects. I think there's a lot of very interesting output. There's a lot of very interesting collaboration being formed. And unfortunately, we're all bound by the project frame and by the project funding, which tends to finish after 3-4 years, depending on the project lifetime. Part of that, I think, and maybe that's something that we can take further after this event, is we're also trying to discuss with the European Commission about a fund, an actual fund that can facilitate, after the project is finished, the continuation of some of the outputs from the project so that we don't lose the momentum. And the third success bubble, which is probably more of a very concrete thing that we do, is the standards. We have some very specific standards being developed. I think we talk a lot in numbers, CEN-TC 428, EN 15367, and so on. But we have some very specific documents, guidelines developed at the European level for ICT professionals, for digital skills. I think the ARIS project was mentioned as well, that will start developing a workshop agreement on AI skills. So we do see that emergence, and I think the main the success is in the content and in the application, and I'm sure that will be brought up. The challenge is in bringing those topics up to standardization and making that link with standardization, so efforts do not happen outside the standardization arena. And then I have other challenges that will link to policy, but we can come to those a bit later.
Okay, we can come back to that. But maybe then for you, Wanda, if you can highlight some of the critical aspects to consider when developing education and training curricula using EU standards for ICT professionals.
Yes, I could do that, and thank you very much. And also, yeah, it really relates to what you were saying, Andrea, because you have to make the link from the standard to the education, of course, and that is really crucial, of course. And I'm not going to be too technical about it, but the key is that you harmonize on the level of learning outcomes. And that may sound a bit puzzling, but when you're when you look at the learning outcomes of a certain program, you can actually compare the competences of the professionals that you educate for. So what you need to do that is actually a common language. And this common language is provided by standards, frameworks, such as the e-competence framework. So this framework is like general enough so you can specify it to local needs, but it's also specific enough so it provides enough guidance to ensure that the competences, that the professionals actually have the competences that you want them to have. What you often see in projects is that they're trying to define just one ultimate curriculum, one ultimate learning program. And I think that is, not very realistic. And actually, to be honest, also not, it's not realistic, and it's also not. Actually, you don't want that. Because you have to deal with specific regions, specific countries, which each have their own infrastructure, their own specific needs, their own technologies that they want to educate for in that particular situation. So when you harmonize on the level of the learning outcomes and you use that in kind of general terms, you ensure that your learners across the whole of Europe do have the same competences in the end. And that, I think, is really key in the translation of these standards to practical implications in education and training.
Thank you, Wanda. So maybe over to you, Emilio, if you can tell us a little bit about how the European Commission is approaching the capacity building for digital skills in ICT standardization.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, again, we have different dimensions. So let me say is clearly that skills and digital skills is a clear priority of the Commission, and it's not a surprise that if you look at the digital compass, of the compass of the digital decade, the digital skills is one of the fourth big pillars there. And unfortunately, looking at the latest indicators, we need to accelerate the work there as well. But we have this skills agenda, we have the digital education action plan that I have explained, and we are trying also to support with concrete projects. So you have mentioned not only all the projects that are developed by the colleagues from the DGEAC, like Erasmus Plus or Marie Curie, if you want to have the integrations. And we are also trying to support these capacity buildings with standards. And again, let me focus on the standard because it is the model. So the DG Employment developed the European Learning Model, which is this vocabularies for the European Learning Framework. We have also the Digital Competence Framework that provides a sound framework to develop competencies, and we hope that it will not only inform, it has already informed the work that you are doing in Senelec, but also that it will be used to update the things. And because we know that the standardization is about cooperation, and you mentioned the importance of bringing together all academia, users, public administration should be there because we are talking about education, and industry because they have the need of the training and capaciting the professionals. Then, for instance, we have instruments like the multi-stakeholder platform, the European multi-stakeholder platform on ICT standardization that brings together industry, societal stakeholders, member states, all of the different standards development organizations, European and international, because some standards have been developed international as well. And we have an instrument which is the rolling plan on ICT standardization, where we identify the main standardization needs by different policies. And as you can imagine, there is a full chapter on digital skills there, where, for instance, we are asking industry and experts to cooperate with the European standardization organizations to update the e-framework and then to take into account the updates by the digital competence framework. We have also and I like what Andrea said, I fully support, we need also digital skills for participating in standardization. I mean, you go to some standardization meetings, and possibly in the first one to the and you see many dinosaurs around the table. You say, where are the young people that need to... We need also capacity building there. And there we are trying to do some particular actions. For instance, we have a project which is called Stone ICT that have a full academy, and we are working, as Andrea mentioned, the work they are doing in Sensenelec to produce material, and also we work with Etsy, particular for the digital standards, and they produce a wonderful work that can use for the different curricula the university for training professional on how to participate in standardization, and we need to attract more professionals there. We are also using that more for the industry, for instance, the European Digital Innovation Hubs, in order to try to bring expertise on digitization in particular to the SMEs around Europe. Or we are thinking now an action on how to use Marie Curie training grants in order to create also capacitations on the next generation of experts on digital standards, because there you can try to match the industry needs with the standardization needs, and then try to have a virtuous circle there. So there are many actions, but we need to go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Emilio. I tried to take notes. Just checking time. How much time do we have? We're okay? We can go for a second round of questions, and then we open up for the audience for questions. Maybe a question for all of you now then. So what are the main obstacles to achieving a standardized digital professional skills framework that is accepted across Europe? Who wants to start? Andrea?
I start? I can start. I think, there are some clear obstacles, but just to bounce back on what Emilio was saying, there are so many initiatives. And I think the consistency and the coherence between these initiatives is crucial to achieve something that is adopted across Europe, that is used across Europe and implemented across Europe. And that's part of the key message when it comes to standardization. I think that's part of our inclusiveness, our coherence, of our making the system as open and as collaborative as possible. The same call, if I may, is towards the policymakers as well. I think there's initiatives under, they were mentioning, ICT rolling plan. There's initiatives under the annual union work program. There's initiatives under the high level forum. Then there's going to be initiatives coming up with the new commission under the Digital Skills for Europe program and the roadmap that will be developed. We had colleagues from DG EAC before. Now it's colleagues from DG Connect. We work with DG Grow. We need consistency across these policies. We need not to reinvent the wheel every time we're talking about digital skills, about education in standardization, about different initiatives. And of course, I mean, with that goes also the funding, because we are translating a lot of these needs in programs under Horizon Europe, under Marie Curie, under Erasmus+. And I think there we all agree that consistency and coherence, and not to always have this sense of starting from scratch, is key. Because we need to move forward. I think it was part, I think Cecilia was mentioning as well. No, we want to make Europe a digital powerhouse. For that, we need the skills to make Europe a digital powerhouse. We need the skills to have young professionals in new digital technologies joining standardization committees and driving the standardization agenda. And that's part of the obstacles we face, I think, as Europeans and as Europe. I think is the beauty in the diversity, of course, because we are a union of member states, but we do need the consistency in terms of policy. We do need the consistency and the dialogue between member states as well. We need that link to be made at a national level between national authorities. I think Vincenzo was mentioning that, between member states, ministries, and the standards organizations. We need to have that link and dialogue open, that we're all working towards a bigger, greater good. A competitiveness for Europe through skills, and for that to have the links made between the national authorities, between the European policy documents, and the whole next 5 years that will come now with a lot of new proposals, and then implementation through standards. I don't know if that answered your question, but it passed my message. So I would really like this event to come out with consistency and consistent policy making, and to use the instruments we have at hand from both industry and standardizers to make these a success in terms of digital skills.
Thank you, Andrea. I think
Sorry, Emilio.
Very strong message. And so we can go to you, Emilio, first if you want.
Yeah, if you want. I would not disagree with you, but I can tell you that at least at political level we have very strong contacts with colleagues from DGAC and also day-to-day contacts with DigiGrow. But I agree that we need two things. One, I think, is consistency, you mentioned, and Grigory already in the previous panel mentioned. I mean, education is national competence. It's not even national. You go to autonomous competence, and now in the universities, even every university has its own competence framework. So we have an issue there. Although we are trying to develop this European framework, and there was a lot of mentions to the European framework, but still the other thing that is needed is acceptance. And I think we need to make an effort on acceptance. You develop standards, they are very nice, but then you need that they are implemented and they are accepted by the market, and they have to be used. And there is where we need awareness. And I was giving you an example. We're in the meeting room. I can give you the example. For instance, we have the Erasmus Plus. I think Erasmus is one of the best programs that have been done for the European construction in terms of also efficiency and cost efficiency with the budget that it was there. If you go to all the colleagues in the Commission, most of us, we have made an Erasmus. But still, my children, they were trying to make an Erasmus, and my son was born here in Brussels, although the two parents were Spaniards. He studied in Maastricht, or Perfect European, and then he wanted to make the Erasmus in Barcelona. And then we were there, and we have a big problem to have him accepted in Barcelona because they were asking for a certification that he could speak Spanish. But Spanish is his mother tongue. So believe me, I spent 1 month and a half. How this could happen? So there is a problem if we don't implement the framework rightly. On the other side, my daughter went to Prague and there was no problem. It was everything accepted. So I try to do things, recognition of diplomas, of certificates, etc. We are using, for instance, the European blockchain standardization infrastructure in order to make a service for the recognition of diplomas. We approved the Interoperable Europe Act, trying to put also building blocks for the development of trans-European public services. But now we need really possibly more awareness, implementation and acceptance so that they can be efficiently implemented, all these measures, including the standard. Thank you.
Thanks, Emilio. And Wanda, do you want to say something? And then you open up the floor.
I could add another obstacle. Because, when talking about skills, sometimes they tend to be too specific. So what you're actually striving for is context independency and technology independency. So you need to formulate the frameworks themselves in a way that they are not related to specific context, etc. So rather using broader concepts like competences and formulate them in a more general way, leaving out the specificities.
Do you have a solution? You should. Well, yes. But it's a very important aspect. Yeah, it's a challenge. So maybe we can open up to the floor if there are any questions for the panelists.
Hello, my name is Vicky Margariti from the Greek Permanent Representation. I'm a digital attaché, and I would like to put forward a question, a proposal, especially to the representatives of the European Commission. Those are very valuable insights for the digital skills, all those that you have already mentioned. A lot of projects, a lot of policies, a lot of action plans all these years. But what we have observed is that the digital skill gap is already there, and there must be something different to put forward to face this gap. So I would like to ask Emilio, have you ever considered in the Commission to introduce a more binding instrument to accelerate the digital skills around Europe, a more horizontal initiative, maybe a digital academy acting as an umbrella for the European public sector, the educational, the employment sector, and there you could link all these standards, all these frameworks to harmonize all this perspective, so as to have all this horizontal digital skills action. What I want to say is that we have plenty of projects, plenty of initiatives, but they don't seem to be enough to face this skill gap. Maybe something more regulatory and more binding would be the solution to accelerate and to enforce, the digital skills around Europe. This is my question. If you have considered to introduce, in terms of the new priorities and the new commission, something more biting and to accelerate the digital rule book effective implementation. Thank you.
That's a very good question. You should have made that question to my colleague from No, but it's a good rephrase. I mean, what I can tell you is, of course, we have seen this gap. And I was referring to the last report of the European Digital Decade. And this is clearly, if we continue like that, then we may be short, in particular of ICT professionals. That will be difficult because we are now, I think the target was 20 million, and then if it continues like that, it will be only 12 there. So this is a thing that is realized. This is possibly something where we have to reflect what measures can be done. Now we have the new commission, hopefully as of next week, and then this is something to be discussed there. And we hope also that the Council will support the Commission if there is a proposal, because again, we are talking something that the competence is also lying with Member States. But I agree with you, something needs to be done in order to fill the gap. Let's work all together.
Okay, we have time for one more question. I see someone at the back.
Hi. So I'm coming from University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. I have actually a comment about because we try to speed up all the time and to make shorter and shorter and shorter the pieces of knowledge that somebody needs to have really good skills, right? Digital skills. But from what we observe, going through countries that are supposed to be quite innovative, like India, China, and so on, there are still a lot of, let's say, difference between what we know here in Europe. And that difference, I believe personally, is the deeper kind of understanding of the digital aspects or the computer science in general that I think we should not forget about, because going to the speed or to the shortness does not mean that we should somehow forget to teach deep aspects of the technology. That's the one thing that I wanted to comment. And the second thing, I was really very happy to hear about the FC efforts and the European learning model. I'm engaged in a project called EPSI Vector, in which I lead the activity on stakeholder engagement in education. We have a lot of technologies, also supporting Erasmus Plus exchanges, certification, micro-credentials, and so on. So you're all welcome also to come to that project and have a look at what is happening in terms of bottom-up standardization. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to comment. I don't think it was a direct question, but okay. Please go ahead.
I think just purely from a standardization perspective, and I'm happy you picked up on the examples of China and India, the investment and the strategic approach to how standardization and digital skills are being used needs to be matched in Europe. And there I quote things like, how come we don't have a digital skills hub? How come we're not advancing with all the programs we have? And that's, I think, where we see that the other regions competing with us in the world are putting a very strong both financial and strategic input into it. And I think it reflects then, of course, into the reality of lagging behind a bit in certain things. But I do take your comment, and I think the intention in standardization is part of that cycle of rather make it well than fast. No, and I think it's the same applies for skills as well. And we need to take the time it needs to develop the skills and to apply the skills and have those skills at the European level. And I think the same with the programs that were mentioned from the European Commission. I think they allow for that time, but inevitably the world is moving faster. So I think the need from the market is rapidly becoming more pressure, puts more pressure on us to have those skills ready faster and in shorter time frames. So.
Thank you. So yeah, one doesn't exclude the other. But we need to stop. So can I give everyone 1 minute to conclude on your main takeaway? Half a minute. One sentence of your key message take away from this panel. I start with you, Emilio. 30 seconds.
Now, what I think we all agree on the need of digital skills, of the need of making more efforts. We need to fill the gap, and we need to work all together. And standardization is a good tool to favor this increase of both developing the skills and also acceptance and implementation.
Wandam?
So I think it's highly important to make a distinction between digital skills for users and skills, actually competences for ICT professionals. And I think that's key.
Good point to make in all these discussions on digital skills. And
from my side, I think collaboration and communication across the different initiatives, different projects, different standardization efforts, and then implementation through standards, I think will help us in speed up digital skills.
Excellent. And I understand we have no more minutes. So let's just conclude that standards are not just the technical tools, but they are strategic enablers for Europe's competitiveness, inclusivity, and innovation in the digital economy. And I would like to thank all our panelists here for your interventions. And let's continue to collaborate, and let's be consistent and not reinvent the wheel.
So thank you, Elena, for your outstanding moderation, and thank you, the panelists, for the outstanding contribution and for making standardization to be appealing sectors. I have to say that I have a background in standardization, and I am honored to have been the sense and operating leader of the EN 301549. This was what Andrea was saying about the numbering. This is the standard on public procurement for accessible ICT products and services. And also, together with Wanda very soon, we will start a framework of agreement to create the job profiles in the context of the ARISA project, that is the European Sector Skills Alliance on Artificial Intelligence. Having said that, I have to say that in these last 10 minutes, I am the only barrier between you and the rooftop lunch that we have prepared for you. So let me make a closing remark. Can you hear me? Yes. Let me make a closing remark summarizing a little bit the day of today. Starting with Cecilia's message, if you remember, Cecilia said something that digital skills are key to navigating geopolitical complexities and also critical for securing Europe's tech future. We need also more gender convergence in ICT because, for example, women are only 20% of the ICT specialists. And we also need a more unified strategy for more investment in critical technologies. Then, if you remember Pia's message, she was advocating for expanding the EU efforts in digital skills and education and really support some flagship initiatives in the next political mandate with targeted investments. Then let's go panel by panel. The first panel, moderated by my colleague Costas, was on enhancing defense and security with digital skills. Here there is an urgent need to address the digital skill gap in defense. Also, reskilling and upskilling are critical. And we need to learn from civilian initiatives, the dual use of technologies, and how to transform from the civilian arena to the military arena. And then also collaboration is, as Laura said, let's do it together. Collaboration between industry and defense actors is essential. If we go to the second panel, the European Digital Skills Strategy, we put several examples about our ESA project, the European Sector Skill Alliance on software skills. And if I remember, Pilar Roch was pointing out the SMEs difficulties to hire and retain ICT specialists, the importance of having public-private partnership that really we can have solutions and scale them up. And then the European Commission, the commitment to have skills for competitiveness and economic security. And then I think we have just have the standard one. So let me go to a call for action. For 3 minutes, So we at Digital Euro think that we need to stay committed to collaboration among industry, academia, and policymakers. This united approach really ensures that Europe remains at the forefront of innovation. As I said before, considering the sustainability of some of the projects that we have in digital skills, we have decided to launch an alliance, a formal structure that is the Digital Professional Skills Alliance, that will be an umbrella initiative to integrate and sustain our EU-funded projects in digital skills. So we are going to do it. And then I would like to do a final thank you to all the attendees here in Brussels today. It's not very sunny, but we will do the rooftop lunch with the Prosecco to celebrate that we have finalized this project. And really, to finalize, I would like to promote our Master of Digital 2025. That will be, I think, the 20th of February whole day. Then, really, I would like to close this Digital Skills Summit, our first edition, but I guess we will have more, with this message. With the right digital skills for the right professionals in Europe's most critical sectors, we can make Europe a digital powerhouse. So thank you, and we'll see you upstairs.
1